Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 5. Facebook, my favorite social media platform. Now, Facebook, if you remember, clear back to the beginning of this class, you read over that reading that talked about the research that had been done with social media platforms and how Instagram and TikTok are the growing ones, and that Facebook is pretty much holding steady, even in as well as falling off a little bit. Um, but Facebook is really for the demographic of people 35 and over, which obviously precludes you. And so you may be an Instagram only person. But think about if you're promoting for a business or you're promoting for a business that you're trying to get off the ground, or whatever you're promoting, or you're trying to promote something for yourself. So creative writers out there, if you're trying to promote your reading, if you have a demographic that in your target audience that is 35 and over, then it may make some sense to establish a Facebook account for that business or what you're trying to promote or promote yourself, etc. Now, if your demographic absolutely is not the 35 and older group, then yeah, it probably makes no sense to have a Facebook page. So these are things that you want to start thinking about. But in most of your cases and most of your projects that you're probably thinking about doing, again, based off previous semester's projects, it made some sense to have a Facebook set up for the purposes of that, because often target demographics are going to include people that are older than you in it. Facebook is still considered the most popular in the sense of number of users, although I predict in the next couple of years that Instagram will very much take over that top spot. But it's still good information to know about how do you have the best Facebook posts that you can. How do you reach your audiences? And you will find in the readings this week quite a few talk about advertisements versus posts. Facebook ads are notoriously hard to get people to click on. I was just on Facebook this morning because I really like Facebook, and for some reason they keep sending me diaper ads. I have a 9-year-old. I'm not going to have any more children. I don't need diaper ads. Thanks, Facebook algorithms. You have issues. So there are, I know that other workplaces and things like that. I was actually in a meeting for Belmont Abbey the other day about Facebook ads, and they've got quite a few Facebook ads, but they were wondering if those were as effective ads as if other social media they could post, and I think they're going to go back and look at those. So there is the idea of, do you want to go Facebook ads route? And most of the readings that I have you reading are saying no, not necessarily. You can actually get a lot more people interested in whatever you are promoting through an actual page on Facebook. So I'm going to show you some examples of that. You can see our readings here. How to try and write a perfect Facebook post. Page versus group. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. And then these other things. One of the downsides of pages is that you can't see who liked it. You can see that people like your page. So for example, I'm going to show you the Crusader, the Belmont Abbey newspaper page, which is a page that I run. And we can see how many people liked it, but we can't see who those are. So often on a page, maybe you see that 75 people liked a post that you made on your page, but you can't see who those people are. So you can't directly reach out to them and advertise whatever you're advertising. You can just be like, hey, 75 people saw it. So there are some downsides. There are also some benefits. Anyway, if you're interested in marketing, if you're interested in how to get more followers, if you're interested more in Facebook business, those are all recommended readings that I would read if there's something that you yourself are interested in, or that's how you're thinking about using Facebook for your final project. Again, the final project, you will use 2 social media platforms to promote whatever you are promoting. Facebook might be an option. Depends on what you're doing. You also find in the readings this week that quite a few of them recommend that if you are trying to promote maybe an article that you wrote for a website, or an article on somebody's website for a business, that you include that link to the article. There's a lot in Facebook posts that include links to other places. It is a platform that really sets itself up for that. Hashtags are not used on Facebook posts very often, and if they are, I often think this person posted it to Instagram first before they carried it over, and usually that's the case. So hashtags are really more for Instagram and Twitter than they are for Facebook. So each one of these social media platforms has its own ideas and its own ways of best practices for writing for it. And really that's one of the main topics of this class, is getting a better understanding of what are the best practices for posting to these very specific social media platforms. What works well for Instagram does not necessarily work well for Facebook, and neither one of those might work as well for TikTok, for example. I can almost guarantee you that your average Facebook post is not going to be very successful on TikTok, right? Because there's that lack of that engaging video to go along with it. Now, TikTok and Instagram talk to each other a little bit better as we use different video type things, but still, each one has its own specific way to use to promote. And these are, if you're thinking about going into social media managing, or you're thinking about getting a job working somewhere, and then you think it might be likely that you're going to be put in charge of doing some social media managing, this is important information. You need to know, what do you need to post and how are you going to post it. Okay. So sorry, for a moment there I thought that it hadn't been recording, and here's my cute little image, right? If you try to be like you are on Facebook in normal language, you're going to have people following you, and yes. Okay, so this is one of the highlights of the readings that's required this week, but a perfect Facebook post, okay, provides some kind of link, usually, but it doesn't have to. So I'm going to disagree a little bit on that one. You don't have to have a link to something else. You can have your own. Often, though, you also have a call for action, right? We've read about that in previous weeks, but there's some kind of call for action. You're asking people to do something. Because we engage with questions, we engage with, I'm going to do this. How am I going to respond? You can usually get better interaction with people from that. So is brief, 40 characters or fewer. Okay, all of you that are English majors or humanity majors, which is pretty much everybody in this class, right? Everything that makes you a good humanities major writer, you gotta not major, and make you a good humanities writer, you gotta throw out the window. Social media writing, for the most part, is short, sweet, and to the point, right? So just like you learn on Instagram can have some longer paragraphs, but for the most part, we are keeping things brief. It is quick information. Gets published in non-peak times. Now, this is a little bit different than you might think about. Why is that? This article goes in great detail. Kind of the upshot of that is that if you try to publish it during peak times where everyone's on it, that you kind of get lost in the shuffle. That is, people are reading through their feeds and seeing how things update. You're going to have better luck if you post it during those non-really rush times. I would suggest you try to post it either right before or right after, so people are still scrolling, but they're not as overwhelmed with information. Now, so follows other posts on a regular schedule. You learn that in the readings on Instagram as well. You'll see that on Twitter. You'll see that on pretty much social media, anything, that you need to have a set schedule. So I was just looking at somebody's, a friend of mine said, can you look at my Facebook and give me any suggestions? And I noticed that she has a tendency to post all over the place. She won't post for 4 months, and then she'll post 10 posts all within an hour of each other, and then she'll post 2 days later, and then she won't post again for another month, and then she'll post. And I was like, hey, maybe if you had a little bit more consistency with those posts, that would be helpful. Maybe you post once a week, but you always post on a Wednesday around whatever time. And she's like, but I don't remember. And I was like, well, you can set reminders in your phone, or you can use Hootsuite is one that has been mentioned several times. There are various companies out there that will help you manage your social media, and you can set it up beforehand that it'll all post at whatever time you set it up. Hootsuite, which I'll show you in just a moment, is one that a lot of companies use. It does cost money though, so I would suggest that you wait until you are working for someone to see if they will invest in it so that you're not paying for that, or you pay for it, but you only do it when you're really ready to promote your product. And then timely and newsworthy. Okay, so this goes through all those, the perfect Facebook post. This is Hootsuite is here again. This is social is your superpower. This is where if you are posting, if you're a social media manager for a company or a group or yourself, this might be something you'd want to invest in. Obviously not required for this class, but just something to be thinking about, because then you can schedule posts. And if you're trying to post to like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and trying to keep track of all those can be a little bit of a headache. So you have something like this that'll work. Okay. So here is some suggestions. Again, this is on 4 pages that had the most success. They target an audience with a strong passion. They publish good content. They publish very consistently. Okay, best practices is once a day. That's often way too much for someone who is doing it all on their own. Once a week at a minimum. They get a lot of shares, so thanks to those 3, a lot of people are sharing their content. This good content would include call to action, etc. Okay, so this is one of your readings that talks a lot more about how to do this and what to do. So let's, in the few minutes that we have left here, let's talk about groups versus pages. These are the two of many that I run. I love, like I said, I love Facebook. And I manage, I think, like 30 different groups in Facebook. Some more than involved in others. This is probably the one I'm the most involved in. It's a women in college support group. It started a couple years ago to provide advice in college in general, and I'm super proud of it. And we're up to 9,000 members of people across the country. Anyway, so this is a group. So within it, if you're on Facebook or you haven't been on Facebook, you got your title, you got all the different people who post things, people in comment, like, right? There's a lot of this is a group. And it used to be, when I first set up this back, I think about 5 years ago, that groups were the thing that everybody did. So a lot of times, if you go back to people 5 years ago or more that set things up on Facebook, companies set up groups and people joined the groups, and then they could post and like and comment and everything in groups. But the really social media has shifted, and now the idea more is that you have a page for what you do. And so this is the Crusader. It's the newspaper here at the Abbey that I'm in charge of. And I just realized I need to put a username, but whatever. It's a page. Now on a page pages are much more reserved for individual companies. If you're promoting yourself, you're probably going to have a page. It's a much more user-friendly idea that you can put the information. You can post things, people can like, people can still comment, but that it's much more streamlined. So instead of inviting people into a group, it's just here's the page and people can engage from here. It's a much better way to go than a group. And actually, when I came to the Abbey and took over, I do the English department, Agora at the moment, and Crusader pages. One of I think Agora was a group, and we've now made it into a page, because again, it was set up when everybody did groups. Now most of the time is pages. So if you do Facebook, I would suggest that you do a page, because you can keep it much more streamlined, much more focused on just topics related to whatever you're trying to promote. When you have a group, then everybody in the group is posting. You can turn that off, but it's more that let's all get together and talk type attitude than I want you to just read what I have going on. And people can still follow pages and see updates and everything like that. But that's what I would suggest you do. We are almost out of time. I think we have 30 seconds left on this. I will say that again, just because I love Facebook doesn't mean you need to use it. You absolutely do not need to use Facebook for your final project. If you've never really used Facebook before, you are more than welcome to email me, because like I said, I love Facebook. But you can use Instagram and TikTok. You can use Reddit and Instagram. You can use Twitter, and there's so many options out there that you can use of media platforms for your last. So anyway, thanks everyone. Enjoy Facebook moments.